students, who make up about 4% of the district's population. Near 80, partly sunny this afternoon, mostly cloudy, maybe some sprinkles tonight. KFGO meteorologist Tom Shabansky is expecting 60. Tomorrow, partly sunny, high up about 85 Friday, sunny on Saturday, and 94. And then near 100 degrees with sunshine on Sunday. 77, Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
Is this a shot because our video streaming service is back?
No, we talked about doing 80s pop today.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And this was the very first song ever played on MTV. So.
Oh, okay. I just assume it's a subtle shot.
No.
You know, because I'm not wearing a visor right now because people can't pull off visors anymore. And I mean that as broad statement as it sounded. People can't pull off visors. Visors, were they ever cool? Were they ever really that cool? Just the visor, not the baseball cap, because I'm a baseball cap guy, clearly. But taking the top off and just letting your hair flow, was it ever cool?
Cool, I think, is a relative term. So, yeah, it was cool in its day. Was it objectively good? No.
Mm-hmm.
But it was. I mean, a mullet is coming back. Is that
correct.
Cool or is it popular?
Nor was it ever cool.
But it is popular.
It is. That's a whole different conversation. I'm not usually in the popularity contest. But I look over to my right.
Wait, weren't you an elected official?
Sure,
is there any more pure form of popularity contest?
Sure, I had one the dog or the sun shines on a dog's. So you know the saying. I look over to my right, and the host of News and Views is wearing a visor. Do you want to tell him? I will if he comes in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Was he on a golf course?
I don't know. His hair look. Anyway, this is radio. None of you care either.
Did he apply enough sunscreen?
Yeah, because that's on the back.
Yeah,
on the back where that bald spot's very much noticeable, because that's the downside of visors. I mean, your hair. Now, the only thing that made the visors cool was when you had frosted tips in addition to it. And that was in
so
98.
much hair gel that your hair wouldn't move in a hurricane.
Yeah, it was. What a simpler time. What a time to be alive. 237-5948. You joined us all day. That's at the Ladies Studio Line. I'm Tyler Axes, by the way. He's Eric Johnson. This is Afternoons Live. We got a few things we're going to be bringing to you. Candidates victorious last night. We'll talk about those that were not on top of the vote totals as well. But we were here all night, and I'm not going to gripe about that, except for the question is, what took so long for these results to come in? And yes, we're sitting in Cass County, and yes, I know that there's a lot of people that are listening outside of Cass County about this, and it wasn't isolated to this county either when it comes to some of those results coming in. I mean, after we closed up shop because we got the results and we had been waiting for, there were still other races out there yet to be published on the Secretary of State's website. But locally here, we were asked a question because if you were listening to our stream, which you could do at kfgo.com, we had Deanne Buckhouse. She is the Cass County campaign coordinator of this, and it was right around 10 o'clock that we were discussing the fact that, all right, things have been uploaded, so hopefully the Secretary of State's website then gets those out, so we got some results. And it took, I think, until 11:30 for the totals to be published for Cass County's results. And they did put out a press release here just this afternoon, Cass County government, that is, and the election results delayed due to the number of contests on the ballot is what they're claiming. Delays in reporting unofficial election results, and which is key. It's all unofficial until it's certified, I think, next week. Were due to the large number of contests on the available or that were available to vote on the 2022 primary. So that's the reasoning they're providing, that every machine had to go through every single tally to get these out. So, okay, I'll take that at face value as to why it took a lifetime for those results to come in. Now, I imagine there's a lot of people that kept refreshing, especially if you were at, say, an election party, or if you're just interested in who is going to be your city commissioner, your mayor, your school board representative across the region here. To go from polls closing at 7 o'clock, now I understand that there were some lines, in particular at West Acres, and I'm waiting to see which polling location, in fact, had the most votes and the most voters go through. My gut's telling me, just based on everything that I heard yesterday, that West Acres was probably the most busy. And you had lines that were still formed at 7 o'clock, and they were told that it's going to be a 45-minute wait. I have no idea how many people actually waited those 45 minutes, but they was well within their right to do so. In fact, it's legal for them to, be in line. And I'm glad to hear the way at least one of those people that was working there went to the back of the line to make sure that everyone knew you could still vote. But I understand there was a bit of a hiccup to get the results from West Acres uploaded as well. So there's a lot to digest here. And I know they have pledged that Cass County election officials are going to try to work to make the process more efficient for the general election, which is quite frankly going to be here before you know it. But when you looked at the results as the dust is settling right now, I'm looking at turnout. And I'm looking at the fact that statewide turnout in North Dakota was pathetic. 15.71% of North Dakota eligible voters actually participated during this June primary election. That is pitiful. My question for you is, why is it so low? You had 105,000 voters, give or take a little bit more there. I go back to 2020. And I'm looking at this statewide turnout to that June election. 27.54% of North Dakota eligible voters turned out, 160,000 plus voters that turned out for the 2020 election. So I'm thinking, why the steep drop-off? Is it because that's a presidential election year? This is a midterm? So then I went back to 2018, and I wanted to see something comparable in a midterm election. And even then, about 20% of North Dakota's eligible voters turned out in 2018, 115,000. So if you want to go comparables to the midterms, 10,000 fewer voters in 2022 in a midterm election compared to the last midterm. My question is, why did people not turn out to vote this last election that just recapped and wrapped up yesterday? I want to hear your thoughts. 237-594, and that's where I'm going to go and connect with Bill. Bill, appreciate the phone call. How are you today?
Good. Hey, I think there's a couple reasons why. I think part of our election process is outdated. Younger people, in this day and age, we should be able to vote from our phones. Everybody does everything from their phones. Why can't you not vote on your phones? And that's what people do. They're very mobile. And I think that's part of the problem. I think another part of the problem is that when you have these elections, and I think they're designed to be like this at this time of the year instead of once a year in November, okay, when you're going to have everybody turning out for all the major elections and everything else. I think they're designed because they don't want people to turn out, because it's advantageous for some people not to have people turn out. Mm-hmm. If you have everybody turning out in November to vote for like midterms, governor, president, all that kind of stuff, and you include your local school boards, city commissioners, and all that, I think you see a lot more turnout. Yeah,
Bill, I'm not going to disagree with a higher turnout in November. I think the data points prove that. I think the argument against it is those ballots would be so cumbersome that there'd be voter fatigue, and then you get to the back of that ballot, be like, well, I've been here for 20 minutes, and lunch is right around the corner. I better get going. That's my only argument.
I don't agree with that. I think that's an excuse. No. I really don't. I think you're really not giving the voters enough credit when you say that.
The one other thing that of the June primary bill that I think is a necessary step. Boy, you can tell I was late last night trying to talk nonstop. Is The primary elections, not just your city elections, your school boards, but those contested legislative races, right? So let's say you have 4 people vying for the 2 spots. So how would you handle that if we didn't have the June primary? Just curious.
Well, I mean, as if you're talking about like the primaries for like your
Mm-hmm.
basically the people voting that for it's all along the party line
Yeah, it
when it
is.
comes
Yep.
to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But I'm talking when you're talking your local elections and everything else, and for like bond bills and all that kind of stuff. If you look at it, when they have these things in like January and February and those kind of years, well, your voter turnout is going to
Yeah.
be poor. Those things are planned that way, and I think it's really disingenuous to the voters, and I think it's also it's a disenfranchisement to the voters.
Mm-hmm. Bill, I appreciate the phone call. One thing I would let you listen off here before you get to Russell, and then I know I got to take a break here. Yeah, you're right to point out that voter turnout June, these primaries, so to speak, elections, way lower. And in fact, there has been attempts in the legislature on the North Dakota side of this river to address that, saying if you have, say, a constitutional measure, you got to initiate a measure of some sort, it's got to be on the general, so more people, in fact, turn out to vote for that because, as Bill's pointing out, it's proven. More people turn out in those general elections in November. I'm going to get to Russell before a break. Russell, how are you today?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. What's on your mind?
Well, you were saying that it just took Cass County such a long time to get the votes back.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard one woman on the radio stating, well, we don't want to have what happened with the Trump situation. It's ridiculous that we're still in that situation, that somebody still thinks Trump got screwed.
Yeah, well, Russell, I'm not going to disagree with you there. The fact that here it is 2022, and that is still part of the narrative. I mean, that's what you're seeing in primetime hearings right now out in Washington, based on the whole rally that turned into a riot that perhaps turned into the insurrection based on the lie that Trump got, railroaded out. It was stolen from him. Couldn't be farther from the truth. 60-plus court cases, not a single one of them said, yep, there was fraud here that would have taken him out of the White House. But, that mindset to people watching these elections more closely, some for the first time after that election, I have no doubt that that's in the back of election, processing minds. They're having a difficult time finding people to work the polls right now. I mean, they are. That could be for a variety of reasons, but I have no doubt that this factors in for some people saying, well, why would I want to go through that? I got to step out of the way here. Tyler Axe's After He's Live is just getting started here on KFGO. Our first caller raised a good point about ease of voting. And I know geez, American Idol can pull it off. Said you just vote by your phone. Now, there's people that are going to raise, security concerns. I get these scams, you get those phishing reports. So the technology, I think, could be there if you put the large investment into it. I don't know if there's any. I think that the 2020 election set some of that back because of all the lying that happened in regards to the legitimacy of it. I do. I think that hurt the perception about the integrity of elections. You see candidates running all across the country, including in this region, about election integrity, including right here in North Dakota, in which we pride ourselves on how solid the election process is, even if you have to wait hours to get those results. But when I look at the figures of these June primary voting turnout figures compared, yes, and again, you got to factor in that it was a presidential election. It was the general of November. There was a lot of eyes on it, so that could be a factor. But in 2020, where you've got 28% of the eligible voters popping up, they weren't exactly going to the polls. They were doing it right from their homes. The convenience of it, the mail-in voting. Remember, because the policy, all that had changed because we were in the middle of a pandemic. So people were mailed their ballots. They got it at home. They filled it out. They returned it. The ease. Now, I don't think there was at all any excuse for people to not vote this cycle. You have a whole week of early voting. You can still vote absentee. And there was a number of places, albeit not as many as have been in the past, to go out and vote on Election Day. So there are zero excuses for people not turning out this time. But certainly people found a reason why they didn't vote. I'm going to go to the text club, 35270. It's provided by the Eye Consultants of North Dakota. There's a few in here, but this one stood out to me because I've heard the conversation before. Tyler, those of us that like to vote for our chosen candidates may be on either side of the ballot. When you have to stay on one side, what's the point? That's the little primary thing. We have closed primaries across this country. And if we talk about how stupid the extremes have gotten, people say, well, it's on both sides. You see it everywhere that we keep pulling apart. You have the extremes now getting their endorsements or their winning primaries. So we're kind of running apart. And you have that 70-some-odd% in the middle of us that look at each side, well, okay, now what? One way to get rid of that polarization is to open up the primary process. Eliminate the whole need that, you can only vote on one side. If you're voting Republican right here, you got to go all the way down Republican. Don't you dare think about crossing that line and going Democrat, or vice versa. You start allowing that. You start having those people that kind of find themselves in this island here between these two polar extremes on the other sides. You're going to start getting moderate candidates that have some agreement. You might not agree with everything, and hell, that's not the way it's supposed to be anyway. But you get more common sense people pass this primary election, and then they go on to the general, and you might have the two most reasonable candidates on both sides of this political spectrum going head to head. We moderate it out a little bit. We cool things down. We level head this situation. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Get this closed primary process over. Here's what we're going to do. CBS News is going to follow KFGO, and then Dave Pepcorn. He won his re-election. We'll visit with him right after this.
News and weather this hour brought to you by Dakota Monument. Dakota Monument Company, making memories last forever. Call for an in-home consultation.
Fargo-Moorhead, partly sunny. It's 78. I'm Paul Jerkins. Fargo City Commissioner Dave Pepcorn, who won a fourth term in Tuesday's election, says he believes that a move from a Bismarck-based group, which spends thousands of dollars on negative ads about him, backfired and actually helped his campaign. He says people donated money and were voting for him because of the negative ads. The mailers sent over several weeks prior to the election targeted Pepcorn's sometimes rude actions during several city commission meetings. 5 people, including 4 newcomers, were elected to the Fargo School Board, ousting 3 incumbents. One of those newcomers is Nimal Day, and longtime political observers in Fargo think her win may be a historic one for the city. Day is believed to be the first black person elected to any office in Fargo's history. Asked about her reaction to the landmark win, Day reflected on the challenges of her campaign. She says she was met with some hostility as she knocked on 4,000 doors in Fargo, but the good outweighed the bad.
It's still disbelief to me for the door knock, the thing that they mentioned, and the fact that I still get incredible residents that are there who are good-hearted. It's not only a win for me, it's also a win for them. Because without them offering me water while I was walking, and they see that how much work that I put in, I'm grateful.
Day got emotional when she reflected on her journey to get to this point. She's a refugee of South Sudan, where she says she saw atrocities while fleeing the country. She came to the U.S. at age 10. Day says her priorities in the school board will be the mental health of students and teachers, retaining high-quality teachers and staff, and highlighting the importance of diversity in Fargo schools. 78. This is KFGO News. .78 degrees. You're listening to KFGO News. North Dakota Attorney General Drew Wrigley says his office is seeing an increase in reports of imposter scams in the state. Victims have been contacted by people identifying themselves as government officials, telling them to withdraw cash and convert it into Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in order to avoid a drug investigation and arrest. Others have been contacted about computer virus warnings. Some people have lost tens of thousands of dollars. High gas prices are taking a toll on the places you stop to fuel up. Reporter Adam Carter.
Minnesota Service Station and Convenience Store Association Executive Director Lance Klatt says high prices mean consumers are opting to skip out on other purchases.
If I'm spending $70 on this fill-up, they do not want to go inside the store to buy other items or purchase other items, whether it's free tickets or it's soda pop or it's chips, candy bars. So all of a sudden, the budget kind of tightens up a bit.
Klatt says along with higher crude oil, refining, and marketing fees, stores are also getting hit with credit card fees, which makes profit margins even tighter.
According to AAA, average gas prices have climbed to nearly $4.76 a gallon in Minnesota, now $4.80 in North Dakota. Minnesota law enforcement is reporting just under 1,800 seatbelt citations and 69 child restraint citations during the most recent 2-week seatbelt campaign known as Click It or Ticket. Preliminary counts show 108 unbelted drivers or passengers died in Minnesota last year, compared with 105 in 2020. Through June 5th of this year, there were 35 unbelted fatalities. KFGO weather from meteorologist Tom Szymanski. Partly sunny, about 80 are high this afternoon. Mostly cloudy, maybe some sprinkles tonight, and 60. 80, partly sunny, windy tomorrow. 85, sunny Friday, sunshine, 94 on Saturday. And near 100 degrees, sunny, windy on Sunday. 78, Paul Jerkins, News Radio, KFGO.
Rusty Alverson in the KFGO studio.
Yes,
Hello.
sir.
Thanks
Business in the front, party in the back.
Did you rock a mullet back in the day?
I did.
You did.
I should bring you one of my senior pictures.
Yes. Yes, please. And I was going to ask how old. What this was a decision you made on your own?
This was in the early 90s. We all made bad decisions back in the 90s.
Here's how young I was when I realized mullet not really for me, because there was a photo of me as a child, and I believe like a Ninja Turtles sweater.
Okay.
And I had a mullet, and I
Okay.
remember having to ask mom and dad to get a haircut following that. But I'm like, can we get rid of this? And we did it. I never had a mullet. Then I went to the Zach Morris haircut for, I don't know, like the next 15 years of my life.
Zach Morris.
Yeah, he was the punk on Saved by the Bell.
Oh, he wasn't the punk. He was the star.
He was a jerk if you look back. When's the last time we watched Saved by the Bell? You watched, Zach Morris was not a nice man.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You'd go to YouTube and look up how Zach Morris really is.
Really?
Really.
Oh.
Open your eyes, man. They've been lying to you this whole time.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know.
You think about it. I'll give you some examples off air about when you really think about his antics and his behavior towards what we thought were his friends, like Screech and AC.
Oh, yeah. AC Slater.
Yeah.
Yeah. Screech.
He rocked a mullet. Kind of a Jerry Curl mullet, too, wasn't it?
Slater did have, yeah.
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 Right.
He was a wrestler.
He was.
Yeah.
We're digressing very much now. Let's get to the Northern Crops Institute here. That's what you were talking about.
Yeah, the NCI hosting a webinar market update today with Paula Sonnabend, senior manager with Clutch. Now, that's a company that offers insights and analysis to agricultural producers and companies, too. Now, she offered a view of the potential for unplanted acres this spring across the upper Midwest and the potential of switching from corn acres to soybean acres this spring.
I do feel like we mentioned before that new crop prices incentivized a few corn acres, but definitely not enough. I mean, that number will probably stay around that 89 to 90 number. We might see a little bit more, which would be great. Some switching to beans, but again, mostly flat. I don't feel that people are going to push real hard to seed a lot of those extra acres or exhaust themselves or put them in an input situation. Again, we mentioned corn and soybean basis is very firm. And the big question is, did they overestimate the crop last year just because of the coverage amount that we're seeing domestically and internationally for you guys as well?
Now, soybeans planted acreage as of this past week, according to USDA, Tyler, 75% complete in North Dakota, soybean planting 88% complete in Minnesota, corn planting 98% complete, and corn planting in North Dakota 90% complete. So guys and gals are still trying to get her done.
Very good. Well, I'm going to let you go get her done in the newsroom, and you come back next hour.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, Rescue Officer Sarah Heinrich, you can go to kfgo.com. Check out more of their work right there. CBS National News on the way. David Pepcorn, he won. He's going to be serving yet again on the city commission here in Fargo. We'll ask him how he's doing today and what he plans to do going forward right after this. Election night coverage here at KFGO.com, and it was about 11:30 when we could finally call who was, in fact, going to be serving on your city commission, Denise Kolpak, and as I told you was going to be the case, Dave Pepcorn, who joins me in studio.
Thanks for having me back, Tyler.
Have you found the address? Have you gone online, the Secretary of State's website? You know, these political action committees, you can find the mailing address. Have you looked it up to figure out where you can send the thank you card?
Well, no, I was going to ask for the individuals so I could maybe individually visit with them and thank them.
They may as well have took a check out of the checkbook and just lit it on fire. And when we had all the candidates on, and I was visiting with you about this, we were saying at the time, and I got it in the text club here, it completely backfired on whoever wrote the check. You're never going to find out who it was unless they up front come and tell you. But now there's a little bit of embarrassment because it didn't work. All it did was get you reelected.
I don't know if you caught that this morning, but I was listening, and I thought it was interesting that the Kilbourne group tried to distance themselves from Doug Burgum. Did you catch that?
I must have missed that one, but they are talking. The separation here. I know that.
I'm not. Anyway, we'll see what happens.
Well, I'll be following along with that, and let's go there then, because we don't know who actually cut the check. We can all speculate, right?
Yep.
And there's people saying, well, of course it had to have been, Jim Roars. There's people saying, well, Al Carlson, was also vying for this. There's other people saying Doug Burgum. Yep. But we might not know. So does that impact your process now that you're reelected? Because it kind of sounds like bigger microscope's going to be put on.
Well, it's kind of fortunate for me because now I can imagine whoever it is. It could be a lot of people, so it'll be that'll be an interesting perspective.
Okay, so I'm trying to find a way to walk through this with you here. Let's say that a project comes up and they're wanting something, and it happens to be a Kilbourne project, and they go somewhere and they ask. Is it instantly? Well, were you guys involved, or is this you're still going to weigh the benefits of it for the general public?
No, you have to you have to put all that stuff aside. So and to be, I should really come here today and say, first of all, thank you to the voters who voted for me today, because I'm very thankful and very fortunate, and I'm very happy with how the election went, and I think it's going to be. I'm looking forward to it. We have a very bright future in Fargo, so that's the good part.
Well, and. Those flyers, and then we'll move on about what you're going, because you won and you say you got a bright future. I want to hear more about that. But they targeted not necessarily votes; they targeted behavior, and I know that behavior at times, it gets the spotlight on you. So you still got elected after that was highlighted. But does it at all make you think going forward? Maybe I tone it down with the commission, how you approach things.
Well, absolutely, you have to behave yourself. But I'm a passionate guy, and I do my homework. And when I get fired up. I'm a former football player, so I still get fired up. So I'll do my best, but I am who I am, and so that's my perspective.
All right, we can move on now. I wanted to get that out as far as these flyers go and the approach to the job. So let's talk about the job itself here. When I look at it, and we've talked about approval voting. Denise Kolpak, newcomer, she's been around and has been involved in a variety of things. Tim Mahoney overwhelmingly gets reelected. In fact, the margin surprised me. Maybe it shouldn't have. But to me, that's an indication. You got reelected. Tim Mahoney got reelected. People are quite comfortable with the direction things are going. So what's next?
We have a very bright future. And the other thing is, so I'm the deputy mayor, and the mayor and I, we don't always agree on everything, but I'm the deputy mayor, and on most things, we agree. And so I think we work together for hopefully what's best for Fargo. I think, and I do think Denise Kolpak, we've already talked to each other today. I think it'll be the same thing. People will be surprised at the tenure of the city commission going forward, I think.
So the only thing that changed on the city commission is Tony Gehrig's not there.
Yep.
And so a replacement with it, you think that things will smooth out now going forward because of this replacement?
I believe so. I think Denise she's a good business person, and so I think it'll be good. People will be surprised at how it goes.
One thing and I'm frustrated, this has nothing to do as far as with your campaign at all, but turnout was not at all what I expected it to be. Did that surprise you at all when you look back at this turnout?
Well, part of it was, I believe, the approval voting. It's a little overwhelming. And then for the school board, it's so many candidates. It's a little overwhelming who to vote for. And the other thing was, I don't believe there was another item on the agenda like legalizing marijuana or abortion or something like that to really drive people to the poll. Do you know what I mean? So I'm no expert. You're the political pundit. I am not.
Yeah,
So.
and I'm just a pundit. I threw my ideas out there, my concerns and comments. To have 16% of eligible voters, I mean, that's just ridiculous, unacceptable. But I'm not.
I agree.
There's no excuses either. Is a thing.
It's a privilege, and people have paid a very high price for us to be able to vote. And the other thing the cool thing today is all the signs are down. Life goes on.
Yeah.
We all vote and then we move on. I like that part of our country.
Well, yeah, and moving on and getting to work.
Yep.
When do you get sworn into your next term? And my understanding is it is still within June here, right? It's coming up in like 2 weeks.
Yep. So we have one more commission meeting with the current commission, and then after that, that's when the change comes over.
So since you've been reelected, does your portfolio change at all? Do you get to pick and choose as the seniority? Walk me through, because when we have candidates saying, "Well, I want to do this," well, a lot of that gets based on what portfolio you got, what department you're in charge of.
The mayor is the one who assigns everything,
Okay.
and so I'm hoping that I continue with all because I enjoy all the ones that I'm on, and I anticipate that I might get another fairly significant one, and so but that's purely the mayor's call, and so. We can lobby, I guess. I never have. I say whatever job you give me, I'll do it to the best of my ability.
Is there one that you prefer to be on? I mean, sticking with what you have now. You mentioned the tax finance. Now, of course, you mentioned some reasons why. But.
I like that. And liquor control board. We just had a meeting today. I enjoy that. And really, all the ones you learn a lot. But I would say the ones, and I'm on right now. Engineering is one, and that's a very important one. So I enjoy all the ones that I have now.
Just about this process, you bring up approval voting, because when I look at the mayoral race, I can see, there's probably some approval voting here, because you got Tim Oney, you got Arlette Preston. To me, you've got similarities there. And then, in fact, I asked Arlette, if you get elected, what changes? So I could see that one. But then you look at the CAS, or the city commission, and you got Denise Kolpak and you got Dave Pepcorn. To me, I can make an argument there that that's not exactly approval voting. That's why I go back to just the way the campaign was. In opposition to you, that really played the factor. I mean, do you credit your election win, well, not solely, but primarily to those Flyers?
I think that helped tremendously. But I think the other thing, I have a track record, and so people know what I do. And you talked about my behavior sometimes, but some people enjoy me standing up and doing stuff that I feel strongly about. So. That's like everything. People are going to agree and disagree.
Yeah, I'm getting the disagreement. You want me to read one for you,
Absolutely.
Dave? Tyler, I'm not a Fargo voter. The phrase "I am who I am" does not fly. Inappropriate behavior is inappropriate. No excuses.
So, I don't really want to go back through all that. But what I said to Jim Roars, that's all. I'd stand behind that, and it was not inappropriate. One of the things about the gesture, first of all, I did not make an obscene gesture. And the reason I was upset was Commissioner Gehrig was drunk at a city commission meeting. They leave that part out of it. So I don't really want to go back into it other than saying thank you for helping me win.
Well, there's a video of it, though, isn't there, Dave? Of the gesture?
I will swear on a stack of Bibles that it was not an obscene gesture.
Okay. Well, City Commission, you can go and check it out there. I have to take a break. Do you have a little bit more
Absolutely.
time?
Absolutely.
All right, I got to get a weather update from Tooth Tall Tom Schmancy. Dave Pepcorn, he's gotten reelected. You have questions, comments, you can send those into 35270. We'll be back right after this. 4 minutes until we get you caught up with CBS National News. Dave Pepcorn, recently reelected to the city commission here in Fargo. And I guess the question is, we have the campaign behind us now, and we're talking about things that we wanted to see done here. So when you get sworn into the next term, then what's the first thing? I mean,
we got lots of good things going on. The obviously the diversion, getting that completed, the water project, the Red River Valley water supply project, that's a great thing. The one thing that we haven't talked about that is going to be going on is the Performing Arts Center, where the current Civic Center is. Knock that down and build a new one. That's going to be a great thing for the downtown. The Fargo Dome needs some accessibility improvements, and so we're going to be doing something there. And then also where the steel site was in downtown Fargo, right on the river, that's going to be kind of the icing on the cake. What goes there?
One thing I just heard a number of times: downtown, downtown, downtown. Aside from Fargo Dome, so okay, I'll give you that one. But aside from downtown, I mean South Fargo, the growth down there is just insane. I mean, where else in the city, as far as people are thinking specials, all that?
No, I totally agree. But the area between West Fargo, Horace, and South Fargo, that is just going to explode with growth. And so that's included. But it takes more work to get development in the downtown. And the downtown is very important for the perception. We're not just the downtown for Fargo. That's a regional entertainment district. And so it does take more work to accumulate property to develop. So I agree with you. That might be, but that's my passion too. I think it's very important that when you drive to other places, your downtown is what makes you memorable.
Downtown and breweries are like the two attractions wherever you go for whatever reason. Most times they're all the same. Some messages coming in for you. Tyler, tell Dave he's doing a great job. Conservative Republicans love Dave. He represents a vast majority of this community.
I'll disagree with that. The conservative Republicans told me to get out of their meeting. They didn't endorse me. And so I guess to me, I'm a nonpartisan position right now, and I've never been more nonpartisan in my life.
In fact, they campaigned actively against you quite publicly.
Correct.
Other messages, sorry, I'm getting more in here. Tyler, it's not a surprise. Pepcorn was reelected. He is one of the few with real common sense. Wish he would run for president.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
These your buddies texting in or what?
Absolutely not.
Tyler, tear out the Civic Center to rebuild. I just converted to an art shop. Comes in as well. Your thoughts on that with 2 minutes I've got.
So the Civic Center, we have to decide whether we want to put money into that or a Performing Arts Center. And a Performing Arts Center, it's not only going to help the downtown with bars, restaurants, hotels, all that, but it's also a workforce development. We have to have amenities to draw people to come to live to Fargo. And that's having a Performing Arts Center is one of those things. So and it has to be. It isn't just going to be the city. It's a combination, private money and public money. But I think it could be a great thing.
Very good, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Tyler.
Yeah, congratulations
Thank you.
On your reelection. Dave Pepcorn, he's going to be serving on the city commission. He and Denise Kolpak, the top two vote getters last night. Tim Mahoney, again, a mayor here in Fargo, getting reelected as well. A lot of messages in at 35270. I'll come back to those, but here's what's coming up. CBS National News. We'll check back in with Paul Jurgens. Then Chris Atterbury, the studio host here, Minnesota Twins. He had a late night as well. We were texting each other at about midnight because they wrapped up. They're out in Seattle. In fact, they have a day game today. Then they're in Arizona? I think on this Saturday, the first pitch is at 9:10 on Saturday. So we'll get a rundown on that. And then I'll come back to all your messages and so much more. I'm Tyler Axedis. You're listening to Afternoons Live on 790 AM, 94.1 and 104.7 FM, KFGO.
KFGO News, partly sunny, 79 degrees. I'm Paul Jurgens. Cass County election officials are blaming delays in reporting election results last night on the large number of contests. The county says state law requires them to generate reports from all machines that were available at voting centers throughout the county. And with a large number of contests on the primary election ballot, each report took from 90 to 120 minutes to complete and print. Once that process was completed, the totals needed to be brought to the courthouse to be tabulated. The West Acres votes were the last to be tabulated. 20,430 ballots were cast in Cass County, which means about 12.8% of eligible voters turned out in the primary. Election administrators say they will work to make the process more efficient for the general election in November to avoid similar delays. History may have been made in Fargo when Namal Day was elected to the school board. Longtime political observers say Day is not only the first black member of the school board, she's the first black person elected to any office in the city's history. Day was not aware of her landmark win and reflected on the challenges of her campaign when asked about it. She says she met with some hostility on the campaign trail, but says the good outweighed the bad. She's a refugee of South Sudan who came to this country at the age of 10. The Minnesota Hospital Association says it supports the bipartisan gun safety proposal in the U.S. Senate.
The MHA issued a statement saying, quote, "The scourge of gun violence and the public health crisis it represents must be addressed, and we are hopeful that the announced agreement will pass Congress and become law." Officials say it's a first step toward ensuring that Minnesota's healthcare facilities and campuses remain safe places of healing for patients, staff, volunteers, and visitors. 5 workers were shot and 1 died in a mass shooting last year at an Allina Health Clinic in Buffalo.
KFGO News correspondent Brent Palm. President Biden has nominated one of the prosecutors who helped convict the former Minneapolis police officer in the killing of George Floyd to be a federal judge in Minnesota. Jerry Blackwell is a Minneapolis attorney and a founding partner of the law firm Blackwell Burke. He worked at no charge as he helped prosecute Derek Chauvin for the killing of Floyd, delivering a powerful rebuttal during the state's closing arguments. About 80, the high this afternoon, partly sunny, some clouds tonight, sprinkles possible, scattered variety, and 60. Tomorrow, partly sunny, windy, 80. 79, Paul Jurgens News Radio, KFGO.
Minnesota Twins, that's what they are on. They have been out late nights, early mornings, and that's where we're going to be connecting with Chris Atterbury, the studio host of your Minnesota Twins, Lion X of Fargo and Jiffy Lube, both of Fargo, bring to you this Talking Twins segment. Chris, late night for you again last night.
Yeah, these West Coast trips when you're doing the pre and the post from Target Field get a little long. I have to tell you, the music though woke me up because that song was the theme of the Bozeman High School homecoming my sophomore year as a Bozeman Hawk. That was the theme. The cheerleaders had the cowboy outfits, and the 6 shooters and everything, and that was the song they played. That was our homecoming theme. 1989.
That is incredible, by the way. The 6 shooters on the cheerleaders. Homecoming, do I ask a homecoming king or no?
Oh, I was a sophomore, man. I was just a little afterthought. Yeah, no chance. Zero chance.
Just observing. Homecoming there. I'm glad that brought you back there. And, getting back to this stretch, like you say, God, these get to be such late games. And, broadcasting them here on KFGO, and we have people that stay up for them. I hope they're taking naps after work because it gets to be a late night.
Yeah, it gets to be a long night, and you just hope the games are good. And last night was actually a good game. It was a bad result if you were a Twins fan, but Logan Gilbert was really good. And the thing about the West Coast games is there's so many really good players that play on the West Coast, and we never see them. And people have been long asleep in New York by the time the games even start, and so they don't ever talk about them, right? Where does all your national sports coverage come from? It all comes from the Eastern time zone. And so there's so many talented players that you never get to see play. Ty France is having a great year. Logan Gilbert's really, really good. He was facing Joe Ryan, 2 guys, both 25, both in their second year. And Gilbert, was better last night. And you look at the guy and you're like, he looks exactly like what you want in a starting pitcher. I mean, so there's a lot of good players out there that we just never get to see. So I enjoy that part of it. I just would rather be on the trip because it's an awesome ballpark and then it's normal time.
Yeah, normal times out there. But, it's been an exciting kind of stretch here, both with good and bad. Again, I kind of been relating it to a roller coaster because, we'll win, we'll lose, we'll win, and all of a sudden there'll be a shutout one night. It consistently inconsistent, I think, is a term that you've said before. I don't know that if you still think that is the case here. But looking still in the lead here in the Central, we got 2.5 games up over Cleveland here. But we've had, the injury bug has been a part of this organization, not isolated to the Twins, but to lose Royce Lewis with an ACL, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, this is an injury that he's suffered before.
Yeah, he had the full ACL tear when he slipped on the ice a couple of years ago and then missed the whole year. This is a partial tear, but he has to have the surgery. The other option was he could have put a big clunky brace on and tried to play and probably damaged it a lot more. So I think he made a wise decision. He's a pretty mature kid. So losing some depth there hurts. But, again, everybody's hurt. The Tampa Bay Rays were just here. They were missing their 3 best offensive players. And they were, no kidding, 4 starters and 7 relievers. And all of them are really, really good were on the injured list. Now, part of that I don't feel sorry for because I think it's been proven that as innovative as Tampa's been through the years with how they use pitchers, and we talk about it all the time, their guys blow out a lot. And I think there's probably a link there. So it's kind of something you almost expect. But around the league, everybody's hurt. I mean, Ozzie Albies is out. Rui's going to be gone all year for Toronto. The Yankees were missing people. So you can't really fall back on that. It becomes a battle of depth and attrition. And I do think we're consistently inconsistent, kind of, in that we've been shut out 9 times. Nobody's been shut out more in the league. And yet when I talk to people who kind of are casual observers of the team, they want to talk about how amazing the offense is. And I'm like, some nights, some nights it is, other nights, not so much. And even people were like, wow, what a great stretch against the Yankees and the Rays and the Blue Jays. Like, you went 5-4. Like, your first place team, you played 500 baseball. So I guess that's good. It's better than going 4-5. But by the same token, I'm not planning a parade because I was one game over 500 against finally playing 3 teams with a winning record. Because guess what? You went 8-7 against Kansas City and Detroit.
Yep.
So I feel like we're in this midst where we had a win streak early in the year. We built a lead in the division. And I just feel like we're just kind of treading water a little bit and taking calendar days off. We haven't won. I had the stat last night. I was out for the COVID stretch, but I can't confirm it. But something about the last time we won 2 or 3 games in a row. It's been a minute, right? Like, it's been win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, maybe win 2, lose 1. Like, so I think this team hasn't really found its footing. Hopefully getting Joe Ryan and Sonny Gray and those guys back in the rotation helps that happen. But I feel a little better about how things are going if we could, get a little streak together and put a little distance between ourselves, because the opportunity to do that was those 15 straight against Kansas City, Detroit, plus 3 with a terrible Oakland team, and we didn't make up, take advantage of that.
Yeah, I recall you and I having the conversation at the beginning part of that, kind of back and forth between those 2 organizations saying, well, you know what, good teams have to beat bad teams, and we're in a stretch here to where you can really make some separations. That wasn't the case, and as you say, now I like that analogy. It feels like we're treading water here. I mean, you're not sinking, you're not, getting closer to shore. You're just kind of in limbo, it feels like. Now, being the pessimist that I am, that's where you start looking at the games back, only having 2.5 games, knowing that it was well over 5, what felt like just 5 days ago. You kind of feel that breath coming up on the back of your neck saying, okay, well, they're starting to gain some ground here. But you bring up the
Yeah, and I
offense.
think it probably surprises people that it's Cleveland, too.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
thought it would be Chicago. Chicago hasn't been very good, and they've been injury-riddled and controversy, and they just lost Liam Hendricks, too, for a bit. But Cleveland with Terry Francona is never going to be – they're like a zombie. Cleveland is like a zombie baseball team. They're never dead. They're always going to be around, chasing you with their outstretched arms. And they play really a fun brand of baseball. And so I'm looking forward to when we get off this trip, we get Cleveland at home, and then we go to Cleveland, and we play them 5 times in 4 days. And when you talk about separation, there's the opportunity, right? If it's a 2-3, even a 4-game difference between the two teams, and then they play 8 games in 10 days, boy, you could switch places. You could blow them out of the water and have a nice, comfy lead. You know, it could be a lot of different results. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, you mentioned the offense, and of course Byron's doing Byron's thing, but Luis Arraez has been on everybody's mouth lately as far as just when you think about the Twins, he's popping up in more and more conversations, at least here in the KFGO listening audience. I mean, is that the chatter that you're getting out where you're at as well?
Well, he's starting to go national too, which is well deserved, right? He's the most pure bat-to-ball guy in the league right now. He's leading the league in hitting and on base. And, the guys in the league office and the commissioner's office have to love this because what have they been saying? They want the game to have more action in it. Well, Luis Arraez is action personified. And we asked Chris Archer how he pitched to Arraez, and he said, I'd throw him a fastball right down the middle, and I'd tell him it was coming because he's got to put it in play anyway, so why mess around and throw 8 pitches? Just let him hit the first one. Hope he hits it at a guy. He's just such a wizard with the bat. We've seen when guys make mistakes that he's got the ability to pull the ball with some power, and he plays the game with a big smile on his face and a lot of energy. And I think it's super cool that we've known he's a good hitter for a long time. We've had the whispers, he's going to win a batting title someday. That's 3 years back. We were talking like that, and yet now the whole country's seen it, and I think it's great for the game. It's great for Luis Arraez, and it's well deserved.
Yeah, it's happy for him. Happy to get that recognition that is well deserved. Chris, I know a game's going on. We've got this last game today, Seattle. Then taking on the D-backs, and going to be some more late night games for you. I mean, I'm looking forward to Saturday, and I'm looking at a 9:10 first pitch Central Time on June 18th. Boy, I'm going to let you get some sleep. You might need some rest to get ready for this long stretch here.
Yeah, it's we got the off day in front. I'll tell you what's weird is, can you name like the Diamondbacks?
No,
have they assumed the mantle of the most anonymous team in professional sports? Part of it is the time zone, and part of it is they're in a division that's really, really good. But it wasn't that long ago that the Diamondbacks, where you heard the name, like, oh, Paul Goldschmidt, And I know I think they got Madison Bumgarner still, but I mean, I look at a box score. If you just put the last names in a box score of a Diamondbacks game, like how many guys could you name?
0.
Not many, right? So who knows what's going to happen in Arizona? But at least there for me, it's like it's almost got a spring training feel. It's a National League team, so you don't pay that much attention to them. You don't see them very often. They're in a different time zone. They haven't been very good lately, and so to me, it's like I have no idea what to expect this weekend.
Chris, I appreciate it, man. I'm going to let you go, and we'll chat again next Thursday, all right?
All right, you get some sleep as well. I know you had a long night.
Yeah, the election night coverage. So now I know I can take this experience and think about you and have sympathy every time that I know this long stretch of late night games gets you. Because I did it one night, and I don't ever want to do it again.
Life choices. It's all about these life choices.
That's right. Chris, my man, I appreciate it. You take care. We'll chat again soon.
Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, Chris Atterbury, the studio host for your Minnesota Twins. That segment brought to you by Lionex Fargo-Moorhead. You can find them on Main and West Fargo for your truck accessories, so much more. And Jiffy Lube with their 3 area convenient locations where you can get more done in a jiffy at Jiffy Lube. You got it locked in Afternoons Live. I'm Tyler Axis here on KFGO.
I am the king of wishful thinking. I refuse to give in to my blues.
We're here at a vacant parking lot to put this truck's spray-on bed liner to the test.
That's right. It's hammer time. Whoa.
Wow, his liner's tough.
Not a scratch on it. Now for the final test. We're dropping a bulldozer from 20 stories up. Let her rip. Oh, man.
Whoops. We just totaled that truck.
Yeah, but that bed liner still looks good.
Line X of Fargo, your home for ARE toppers, spray and bed liners, and other truck accessories. Main Avenue, West Fargo, or linexofwestfargo.com.
Do you want your oil change in the slow lane?
Oh, an oil change. Come back in 4 hours.
Or the fast lane?
Oil change? No problem. Pull right in here. Here we are, sir. I also topped off your fluids. Have a great day.
Hi, welcome to Jiffy Lube Signature Service Oil Change today. Locally owned and operated for over 40 years. Jiffy Lube, where you can do more in a jiffy. 3 convenient locations.
The 2022 Walmart and Sam's Club campaign benefiting Sanford Children's Hospital, a proud member of Children's Miracle Network Hospitals, begins June 13th and runs through July 10th. This 4-week campaign will help Sanford Children's with critical funds necessary to meet the most urgent needs. For 35 years, Walmart and Sam's Club associates have rallied behind the CMN hospitals.
Appreciate you choosing this Toto song and not the other one that everyone tries to cover, like Weezer. That's just a karaoke version. Legislative races across North Dakota, there's a lot of contests because of a couple of things. One, you got this far-right group that's out there trying to take over the Republican Party. You have redistricting also. And both those played out last night across the state. And it's been a mixed result. I know I visited with Joel Heitkamp on News and Views about this, but some of the notes that I have just from the results, you got Jeff Magrum beating Dave Naring. Now, who's Naring? Well, that was Doug Burgum's individual. You know, that Dakota Leadership PAC dumped all this money into Dave Naring last election cycle, and now this one after the redistricting. And Jeff Magrum, I think, could be argued as one of the most right-wing individuals in the North Dakota legislature. Well, now what? He just won that primary. So he's going to be in the North Dakota Senate because I don't believe there's a Democratic race out there. Another one that stood out to me because of redistricting now, that's what changes here. Dave Elke from Devil's Lake in that region. Great guy. Level-headed. We debated things. He was chair of one of the committees I was on. He got beat by a Judy Estenson. Now, if you recall, the North Dakota Farmers Bureau, boy, they've picked a lot of fights. And it leaves a lot of people that used to have, say, some of their insurance products shaking their heads. One of them was going after Doug Goring for the egg commissioner's race a few cycles ago, and they had Judy Estenson as their candidate. Didn't win. She's lost to Joan Heckerman, I think once or twice. Well, she beat Dave Elke in this primary last night, so she's likely going to be in the North Dakota Senate. You got Bob Erbley defeating C. Bass Ertl, and that's what he chooses to call himself, so don't be mad at me for any name calling. He wants to go by C. Bass. Well, he lost to Bob Erbley, who's a longtime state senator from the south central part of the state. That one, you have this C. Bass is one of the right-wing Bastiat caucus individuals that's running around with Jason Heidkamp, who lost overwhelmingly to Cindy Schreiber-Beck, who's pretty middle of the road. Kathy Scraw also winning out there. The one in Bismarck, though, as well. This is why I say it's a mixed bag. Because you've got some of the right-wing winning. You got some of these moderates winning as well. And Sean Cleary was more that old establishment. You talk about good old boys network, right? You think Doug Burgum. Yeah, sure, he ran against it. Well, he is the network now, or at least he's trying to buy and build his own. Well, Sean Cleary fits that mold. He beat Ryan Eckroth last night, who had the endorsement, who was one of those further right individuals in District 35. Now, that's an open seat because Aaron Olban, the Democrat, I think the only Democrat elected west of I-29 as of now, is in fact your USDA state director. There's another result out here that stands out. It's the fact that Jeff Delzer lost. The reason why Jeff Delzer lost, well, one in part because Doug Burgum's been dumping, tens of thousands of mailers and dollars in to get rid of him because the two butt heads. But you think about what the legislative session is going to look like this upcoming session, just in the sheer leadership of it. The Senate majority and Senate appropriations chair, the two most powerful individuals there, gone, both retiring. On the House side, the House Majority Leader, Chet Pollard, gone, retiring. Jeff Delzer, the House Appropriations Chair, gone, defeated at the primary. So all that leadership, the people that know the ins and outs, trying to, herd cats, whatever, analogy you want to use, they're all gone. So when you think about term limits and all that, you're going to have a crystal clear example of that in North Dakota's legislative session coming up, because all the people that have been, quite frankly, kind of trying to steer things in a direction, agree or disagree with their priorities, they're gone. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on. I want to talk about somebody else who won last night, and quite frankly, a historic means Naimal Day. She's on the school board here in Fargo. And by all accounts that our news team's been looking for, the first African-American elected in Fargo. We're going to ask her how that race went, what she plans to do with the spot right after this.
For over 100 years, Corwin Auto has been the best place. This is News Radio KF.
KFGO News, Fargo-Moorhead, partly sunny, 79 degrees. I'm Paul Juergens. Cass County election officials are blaming delays in reporting election results on the large number of contests. The county's state law requires that it generate reports from all machines that were available at voting centers throughout the county. And with a large number of contests on the primary election ballot, each report took from 90 to 120 minutes to complete and print. Once that process was completed, the totals needed to be brought to the courthouse in Fargo to be tabulated. The West Acres votes were the last to be tabulated. 20,430 ballots were cast in Cass County, which means 12.8% of eligible voters turned out in the primary. Election administrators say they will work to make the process more efficient for the general election in November to avoid similar delays. Fargo City Commissioner Dave Pepcorn, who won his fourth term, called the campaign a roller coaster. He was referring to a series of mailers that targeted his behavior at commission meetings.
Obviously, with that many candidates, and then to have the negative ad campaign that was run, and I spent around $10,000 for my campaign, and I believe this negative campaign was, well, multiple times that. And so just very thankful, and I'm really looking forward to working with everybody on the commission. And I think the city of Fargo, we have a very bright future, and so I think it's going to be a real fun 4 years.
Pepcorn says he believes the negative campaign against him helped more than it hurt, as he found support from voters who he said would not have otherwise voted for him because there were people outside of Fargo trying to influence the election. A Bismarck-based nonprofit spent thousands of dollars on the flyers sent to Fargo homes. 79, this is KFGO News. '79, this is KFGO News. The State Patrol says a driver was killed in a rollover in Bottineau County in northern North Dakota. It happened around 1:30 this morning. The 28-year-old driver from Max Bass lost control of his pickup. He entered a ditch and crashed. He was unrestrained and was ejected from the vehicle. Minnesota law enforcement is reporting just under 1,800 seatbelt citations and 69 child restraint citations during the most recent 2-week seatbelt campaign known as Click It or Ticket. Preliminary counts show 108 unbelted drivers or passengers died in Minnesota last year, compared with 105 in 2020. Through June 5th of this year, there were 35 unbelted fatalities. Governor Walz is renewing his push for a one-time tax rebate. Walz checks. He argues that families need that money now to offset inflation.
I think it makes more sense now in the economic situation we're in. The tax cuts, whether you're supportive of them or not, you'll not see an impact on families in the short run because of that.
North Dakota Attorney General Drew Wrigley says his office is seeing an increase in reports of imposter scams in the state. Victims have been contacted by people identifying themselves as government officials, telling them to withdraw cash and convert it into Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in order to avoid a drug investigation and arrest. Others have been contacted about computer virus warnings. Some people have lost tens of thousands of dollars. Wrigley says the scams are successful because North Dakotans' natural tendency is to be cooperative. He says scam artists are using spoofing technology to display a phone number that is different from the actual number. And if you suspect it's a scam call, he says just hang up. Near 80 on high this afternoon. We are at 79 at our KFGO studios in South Fargo. Mostly cloudy. Some sprinkles are possible tonight. 60, 80, partly sunny, windy tomorrow. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
Rusty Alverson's back in the KFGO studio.
Hello, sir.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Talking about acreage, those that were planted, we've seen an increase. We've had, some progress.
Yep.
There's more to be had in the story, especially when it comes to just the global market.
Yeah, USDA is going to release its acreage report for the U.S. on June 30th. A lot of analysts will be watching for that. A lot of analysts, though, looking at Ukraine, of course, too, Tyler. And the Northern Crops Institute hosting a webinar earlier today with Paula Sonnabend, a senior manager of Clutch. And they offer insights and analytics to agricultural producers and companies. And Paula says analysts continue to watch the planting, growing, and export situation in Ukraine.
They actually did get quite a bit seeded, and it just depends on what their input situation and harvest situation looks like going forward. Keep in mind that Ukraine is a couple of weeks to a month ahead of the US as far as it goes, but their growing season is relatively the same. So a lot of analysts are worried about them finding fuel for harvest and getting that crop out. So they got the crop in, but will they be able to get it out? We don't know. Last week, there was no grain export corridor deal. So Russia, some of NATO, I believe, got together to try and figure out a corridor deal. Ukraine wasn't even invited to their own meeting, which is concerning. Obviously, it didn't happen. So as of right now, exports out of Ukraine are going to be slim to none unless they can try and figure something out.
Now, Ukraine has been trying to export grain supplies via rail, via truck, various methods over land, but when it comes to the seaports, not so good.
Well, this is where I put on my commentator hat, and you're a journalist, so I'm not going to pull you in. But, I mean, quite frankly, I think there's enough evidence out there, enough reporting of Russia's trying to starve people. And whether it's the Ukrainian people or people that rely on the market and the grains from Ukraine, it's disgusting. Knowing that they're talking with others, I'm not confident. I think they're liars in this whole situation. But when it comes to the fuel, I imagine this is where I can pull you back in. Most of their fuel is coming from Russia. These Ukrainian, the fuel, I assume.
I don't know that for a fact, Tyler.
Sure. Okay. I would. My gut tells me, but I can do my own research on that.
But you are correct, and this situation, many folks in agriculture have said that this situation is going to cause, as you said, starvation, especially in poorer countries.
Yeah, that's tragic. What it is. Rusty, I appreciate you bringing the news, though. It's important to be watching. June 30th, you say that acreage report comes out?
Yeah.
That'll be here before I know it.
Yeah, it's coming up fast.
Tomorrow, I'm not going to get a chance to visit with you.
Yeah.
You're swinging clubs here.
I'm going to be striking golf balls.
All right. Jealous. But good luck. I know it's all going for a good cause. So
thank you.
Rusty Alverson, Sarah Heinrich. You can go to KFGO.com. You're not going to hear him tomorrow, but you can check out his work. Just click on that agriculture tab. CBS National News is on the way. Naya Molday, she is your Fargo School Board member. Going to be joining us right after this. Quite the historic election happened last night, and we'll explain that to you right after this. Recapping the results of last night's election here, not only in the city of Fargo, but the legislative races. But let's take a moment here. The Fargo School Board election saw a number of candidates. In fact, I think 15 candidates running for 5 spots. And this was not the approval voting process. This was good old-fashioned. You pick, in fact, the number of allotted slots to say who you want on the school board. And voters made their voice heard. And you know what? One of the individuals, quite frankly, appears to have made history in this result. And Naeem Al-Day is somebody that you've heard on this very program before. It's been way too long, but I'm happy to tell you that she is, in fact, going to be serving on your Fargo School Board. Joins us in this KFGO studio. Congratulations.
Thank you, Tyler, for having me. It truly is an honor to be here.
Well, it's watching this from afar. I had no idea what was going to take place. Nobody really did, because you had so many candidates in this race.
That is so true.
Now, there's endorsements that come out, and they say, well, we would prefer this, and you have the Education Association come out, and here we are on June 15th, and you find yourself one of the 5. So you've ran for this spot before.
That is so true.
And now here you are. You're going to be on the board. So explain to me the process. After the first time, you decided, you know what, I'm going to give this another shot, and you find yourself on the board of the Fargo School Board.
Well, thank you for that question. So it's been 4 years since I met you, Tyler.
Yeah.
And you were my first radio person.
Really?
Yes, whoever actually interviewed me. In general.
I did not know that.
Yes, you were.
Okay, well, I'm kind of goosebumpy over here. So, and now we find yourself 4 years later and you're on the school board.
Here we are.
Here you are again, yes.
Yeah, so, to be honest, all I did was just run my race, and just trying to focus, just be positive, compared to like 4 years ago when I ran was a bit different because I was new at running for any public service.
It was a whole
new different thing.
Yeah, the experience in not knowing what you didn't expect, especially if you're door knocking, if you're just at candidate forums.
Correct.
It's a whole new world out there.
It was. And then I kind of saw what people are doing from the Secretary of State, from our senator, from the House representative, from the school board, what they were doing. So I was taking notes. Mm-hmm. So I realized that the only thing that you can do to win an election is to actually talk to the voter.
Yeah.
Because they're the one that will give you your vote.
Well, and they did.
And that's exactly what I did.
So when you went out and you talked to the voters, what were you saying? I mean, they clearly liked what they heard, but, when we have so many city commission candidates, we had so many mayoral candidates, we didn't dive deep into the school board races. So what were you telling? Saying, you know what, if you vote for me, here's what I'm going to do.
No, my vision was very clear. Every time that I door knock, I said, this is Nyamal, or this is Day, or I'm just introduced myself. I said, I'm Day. I'm running for Fargo School Board. Here's my platform. This is what I support. Mm-hmm. They're either gonna say I don't want to support you, or they're either gonna say I'm done with this. Mm-hmm. I really love the platform that you're running. But mainly my focus was very simple. I was a kid that grew up in a refugees camp. I didn't have no family, but I knew that education is the most powerful weapon in the world that you can ever have. In life in general. And even as a girl child, too, is a bit different because of the fact that cultural-wise, not a lot of women go to schools, right? But I realized that, I'm here in the United States. I earned my master. I didn't even speak English from the beginning. The fact that I went from a refugee's child to come to the United States, work hard, to earn a master. And sometimes some people are like, hold on a second. When you came here, you didn't speak no English. I said, that's true. So now you have a master. He said, yes. And then I said, anything is possible as long as you put your mind into it. You're dedicated, you work hard, and you know exactly what you want in life. Mm-hmm. And I knew exactly what path that I wanted to take. And that is to serve people, because that's what my value is. It was installed in me by my family. Mm-hmm. So nobody can give you some things. They're not just going to give you, hey, here's a job for you. No, I learned that at early age, you have to work hard for what you want in life. You're not going to, I'm not just going to sit there and not earn it. And
Well-
that's exactly what I did for this race.
Oh, and you did. And, not giving up after that first run 4 years ago, where a lot of people have said, oh, well, okay, maybe this isn't for me. And that wasn't you. You fought back, and in fact, you got elected here. And in fact, I mean, the historic part of this, that Fargo, you are the first, from what we've gathered, African-American elected. And that's going to be there forever, that you are the first to kind of break through that glass ceiling and that barrier as well.
That is true. I'm still in shock because I still don't really believe it that I win. But at the same time, I still don't believe that I actually made the history, because I feel like there were great individuals in this community could have been in my position. But to be honest, I'm humble and honored, to be in this position. So I take it I'm not taking it very slightly. But at the same time, I'm kind of scared. But at the same time, I said, you know what? Maybe God made me to be in this position for a reason. And that is to change life for the better.
Naima Alday is my guest. She's going to be on your Fargo school board. She won one of the 5 spots that was up just last night. So you're bringing a unique perspective, to the board. I'm curious, what's the main focus that you want to bring on there? When you gavel in, you have your first meeting, what's your focus when you're going forward here?
Well, that's something that you're going to have to find out.
Find out. Be following along with the meeting minutes is what I'm gathering here. But I mean, there's a reason you chose the school board to run. There's something about you brought up education being the most powerful tool there. How can you improve it from your position?
Well, when you look at it, and I can go back to some of my platform that I really, really so passionate about. First thing is the teacher retention. It's so crucial toward me. Because without a teacher, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. Like I told you, I didn't speak no English. I had to work hard. So it's break my heart when I see a lot of teachers are leaving Fargo District School. Why? Why are we not paying our teacher when they should be actually pay extra more? If we don't have our teachers, who's going to teach the doctor that we have now that you see at school? So who's going to train those pilot that when you take, the plane to a different country or overseas? Who taught them? The teacher did, right? So if we cannot give them what they deserve, what are we there as a community? And then if we are not there as a community, why can we at least listen to them, trying to understand exactly why are they saying this? What was the issues behind it? What could we do? And that's where I need to come in. I'll tell you simply, pay them more.
And you're not going to find any disagreement from me. I think teachers are one of the most undervalued and underappreciated professions out there, but one of the most important.
Correct. Because I value them very much. And then also, too, on a couple of them that I'm really passionate about is mental health. In the state of North Dakota, as you already look at it, we have an issue with mental health.
Yeah.
It's not only the school itself, the state itself.
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
Well, I think the answer is not enough right now.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
So if the whole state is having issues with mental health, and we keep removing all of the help, especially like Perry St. John, they remove one of their mental health services. Why?
Yeah. There's a lot of work, and it takes people in a position to do something about it, and that's where you come in.
Correct.
Well, I'm so happy that for you, I'm happy for the school board. This race, there's a lot of eyes on it, and knowing the number of candidates, and they chose right in this one. So I appreciate you coming back in. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Anything else before I let you go, get back into this warm Wednesday?
No, I just want to say thank you to the Fargo communities for, I'm truly honored, and it is my privilege to really, to be in this position. It's not because of my hard work alone, for them too, who voted for me. And thank you to the diverse community out there. It's not only the Somalian community, it's not only the Sudanese community, it's not only the Liberian community. Everybody contribute to my win. And I just would like to say thank you so much for having me. And I also want to say thank you to those listeners out there. When I was door knocking, they actually got me water while I was walking.
Oh, great.
You know, so our communities are good. You know, they have a good heart. They just need to open it a bit more.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to argue with you on that one. Naim all day. She's going to be our Fargo School Board member, one of the 5 new members that are going to be taking part in that. Get you this weather update from Too Tall Tom Schmansky. You, me, this microphone, your cell phone, the whole rest of the way here on KFGO. Tyler Shee, meaning Naim all day, wants education and mental health with a 16% voting percentage. She is right on. You know, one thing when we talk about mental health and the respect of a school board, there's one thing that people need to understand, and perhaps you do, and perhaps you're a teacher and you see it yourself or you're involved with the education system. Some of the troubling behaviors of students are happening in earlier ages. And that was documented to me about 10 years ago. And I don't know that there's been any signs of that slowing down. Some of the things that you would hear from perhaps, a teenager, we've been hearing from professionals that it's happening in education in the classroom in kindergartners. About the self-image doubt, the anger issues, all of that, the kind of violent tendencies. You have to find a way to address that, and unfortunately at an earlier age. So, yeah, there is a coordinated effort. When we think about everything that we ask of teachers or about paraprofessionals, those in the school system, it's not just about here's your little task, teach English and nothing but, and only teach this part of English, only what we say you can do. Don't touch that book over there. That's not the reality of a school system anymore. I mean, they are tasked with mental health. They are tasked with a number of things that they probably did not expect when they decided they wanted to be teachers. But the mental health and behavioral health in the education system is a necessity. And it's got to take school boards, and quite frankly, it's got to take funding to get it done. That's why I'm happy to hear school board members speaking to that such thing. We're going to come back in this final hour. I don't have any other guests. Whatever you want to get off your chest, this election, what you're seeing nationally, sports, music, I don't care. You meet this microphone yourself, and you can call me on the Laney studio line at 237-5948. You can text me at the iConsultants of North Dakota Text Club, which there are messages waiting for me at 35270. I'll come back to that right after this. I'm Tyler Axis, and this is KFGO Fargo. Now and then CBS National News brings you the real important news. This one about lager beers. The process, fermented, stored in such a way that, and here's the line that stood out to me, that lager beer is, quote, the best beer for your heart health. The putting together of that sense, hey, it's the best beer for your heart health. I guess probably a lot of people say no beer is probably the best beer for your heart health. I can tell you it's better than this beer. And this isn't just about this story. I mean,
quit twisting the facts, Tyler. They said it's the best beer for your heart health. That's all that we need to know.
All right. So next time, if you're out there thinking, God, my heart health, give me a lager, please. That's going to be your best bet, according to CBS News and some study somewhere that found an excuse for you to go buy lager beer. Don't buy this one, though. Coors Light and Keystone Light that were made from a plant in Ohio are being pulled from shelves. Not because the born-on date expired, because that was my first inkling. That was because nobody's buying Keystone or Coors Light, so they had to come take it off the shelves. The born-on date. Remember those things? They still do that? Of course. Now, there's a bunch of Coors Light got pulled because people were getting cans that they were saying were like slime, and I saw some TikTok videos. It looks like snotty syrup coming out of the can. That's your Coors Light, your Keystone Light update. Don't be buying it. They're going to be taken off the shelves, and if you find it, let me know at 35270. Well, let's get you caught up with, somebody's saying Budweiser in the text club. Sure, why not? We'll talk about beer when we come back after this KFGO News.
KFGO News, partly sunny, Fargo-Moorhead at 79 degrees. I'm Paul Jurgens. Cass County election officials are blaming delays in reporting election results last night on the large number of contests. The county's state law requires that it generate reports from all machines that were available at voting centers throughout the county. And with a large number of contests and candidates on the primary election ballot, each report took from 90 to 120 minutes to complete and print. Once that process was finished, the totals needed to be brought to the courthouse to be tabulated. The West Acres votes were the last to be tabulated. 20,430 ballots were cast in Cass County. That means 12.8% of eligible voters turned out in the primary. Election administrators say they will work to make the process more efficient for the general election in November to avoid similar delays. History may have been made in Fargo when Namal Day was elected to the school board. Longtime political observers say Day is not only the first black member of the school board, she's the first black person elected to any office in the city's history. Day was not aware of her landmark win and reflected on the challenges of her campaign when asked about it. She says she met with some hostility on the campaign trail, but says the good outweighed the bad. She's a refugee of South Sudan who came to this country at the age of 10. Several North Dakota Republican legislative incumbents were defeated in the primary. The chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, Underwood Representative Jeff Delzer, was defeated in his new district. He came in third, receiving 22% of the vote. Newcomer Anna Novak, a candidate backed by Governor Burgum, came in first. She had 25%. Incumbent Bill Twite was second with 24%. In District 25, in the southeastern part of the state, Senator Jason Heidkamp failed in his bid for a House seat in his new district. GOP voters chose incumbents Cindy Schreiber-Beck and Kathy Scraw. The House race in Minot's District 3 will go to an automatic recount. In that race, incumbent Jeff Hoverson leads Democratic GOP Representative Roscoe Striley by one vote. Oil production dropped in North Dakota in April to about 900,500 barrels per day. That was a 20% drop from the March number, which was more than 1 million barrels a day. State Mineral Resources Director Lynn Helm says despite the production drop, prices stayed very strong. He says supplies of both oil and natural gas are very tight.
I'm looking at the oil prices and I'm looking at the natural gas prices, and I'm telling you that there's no relief in sight on your energy bills, whether it's at the gas station or at the furnace, at the meter, at the decatherms. No, the supplies are just too tight. The prices are just too high.
North Dakota has 37 drilling rigs working now in the Bakken. 495 wells are waiting on completion. Helm says he expects production to pick up once again this summer, and there's a chance production could come close to 1.2 million barrels a day. Fargo-Moorhead near 80 this afternoon. We are at 79, a partly sunny sky. The sprinkles possible tonight, mostly cloudy, 60. 80 again tomorrow, partly sunny, windy. 85 sunny Friday, sunny, warm on Saturday with a high of 94, and about 100 sunny on Sunday, windy. Fargo-Moorhead again near 100 on Sunday. 79, partly sunny. Paul Juergens, News Radio KFGO.
All right, well, CBS was talking about lager beer being, quote, the best beer for your heart health, which, I mean, if you have to have one, I guess. But somebody was very enthusiastic about Budweiser with a couple exclamation points. And then he started a debate between Eric Johnson, he's my producer, I'm Tyler Axtis, your host here on Afternoons Live. Is Budweiser a lager or a Pilsner? So I took to Google. Now, if you missed our conversation yesterday with Dr. Denton from NECU about searches and Google and all this sort of the biases, try to decipher this response in Google that had 3,730,000 results in 0.67 seconds. I go, is Budweiser a lager or a Pilsner? Budweiser is a pale lager, also a Pilsner. What is it? It's
Wait,
both.
what?
How does that work?
Okay, interesting.
Google be damned. You make no sense. I mean, what's the difference between the two now? I've got questions there.
I don't know the specific differences in the brewing process or if it's related to the hops that they use. I know that there are top fermenting and bottom fermenting beers, and I think they are.
That's what sets
one
it
is
apart?
a top fermenting, one is a bottom fermenting when it comes to lager and pilsner, but I don't know which one's which, and I could be wrong about that too. So I don't know anything. I know just enough to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but not enough to actually
quite
know.
convincing. You talked yourself in circles, and that's usually left up to me.
Well, I've been in this chair for a while, so
Yeah,
some things are bound to rub off.
I'll take that shot. That was a good one. Okay, so this person texts, it says American Lager on the can. My last question for you is, are you holding a can right now as you're listening to Afternoons Live? To know that it says American Lager on the can, I mean, is that one that's best served by memory? Or is it because you are, in fact, holding that nice red cold can, listening to us on 790 AM, 94.1 or 104.7 FM at KFGO? All right, more messages coming in. Help us actually have a legitimate answer instead of the one made up, the make-believe from my producer. Tyler, a Pilsner is a lager, but not all lagers are Pilsners. Okay, this is not getting me anywhere. Let me repeat this. A Pilsner is a lager, but not all lagers are Pilsner. It's actually the type of barley malt that makes the difference. Okay, I'm glad I got onto the rest.
According to homebrewadvice.com, so take that with a grain of salt. A Pilsner is actually a type of lager originating from the Czech Republic. The main difference is that more aggressive use of hops in Pilsner and different yeast is used.
Who would have thought?
So Pilsner is
science for the win.
Spicy, more hop-flavored lager.
Okay, now you know. Bud Can says lager. Okay, everybody just remembers what the Budweiser can is. Look, I'm a Busch Light guy. If you ask me what's on the can, aside from the specialty of the John Deere, for the farm ones, I have no idea what it says. Not a clue what a Busch Light can says on it. I couldn't tell you what a Bud Light can says. I couldn't tell you any can, to be honest with you, of what it says. So your attention to detail out there before you crack open and you pop that top again is very much appreciated, because now I know it says the American Lager on it. And okay, well, I guess go after it and responsible, because apparently the study says the lager is the best beer for your heart. So sounds like Budweiser is the best way to go. 237-5948. That's Laney's studio line. All these text messages in at 35270. One saying, yeah, Eric, you don't fool us with that knowledge.
As I
No,
said,
I agree.
just
Had to
enough
clear
to
my throat.
sound like I might know what I'm talking about, but not enough to actually know.
Yeah, and just, convinced a third of the audience out there. So you heard that Rusty Halverson is going to be golfing. Roger Maris, the celebrity golf tournament, I do believe is tomorrow. So he got invited. Joel Heidkamp's invited. You got Travis Dunn, Game On Hockey that you catch here on KFGO. Well, he was invited. And then Derek LaPointe. As everyone knows of all those, that Derek LaPointe is, in fact, the real celebrity there, former UND hockey, involved in Moorhead. But my question of those four names, and if there's anyone else playing out there then on this team, I forgot. I mean, we all know who the one that would have the foot wedge is, right? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who the cheater of that four pack is going to be out while they're swinging clubs tomorrow. We all know it's the mouth of the South, the one that had the the visor on. And I appreciate all you listeners out there letting him know the words of which were coming out of my mouth about the lack of, quite frankly, style of visors that were never in style. It was a fashion mistake when I was in junior high, and some people are trying to bring it back here in 2022, but that's neither here nor there. We'll get you all the latest on that because on the fact that Rusty Alverson's not going to be here, we're not going to have your farm updates, and we're not going to have him for Audibles, which is tomorrow. That's brought to you by Don's Car Wash. You can put a smile on your car and certainly on your face. Tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I've got to give you an update on the Minnesota Twins. They are in action. They have a day game out in Seattle, and, well, there's not much to update, but I'll give you the score there. And then I'll give you just a couple of final thoughts on the election. Now, is now put to rest from yesterday. Certification is going to be taking place next week. With this dust settling, with the amount of money going in, did it backfire? I think I can have a number of examples that I can bring to you of how money and just pouring out because you can doesn't mean you should because, well, you weren't winning. I'll talk about that from our governor through people that want to keep their identity secret. It didn't work for you. So maybe, just maybe, the $1 million investment that you see every election cycle from Doug Burgum, maybe it'll slow down. I don't know. We'll talk about that when we come back right here on KFGO. Out there, that wanted us to get word out that there's been reports of some brownouts by Northwood because of the strong winds that are out there. And in fact, it sounds like there's some dirt blowing around as well. It's been quite dry. I know we had some spots of listening area, but the wind's blowing out there. And so be mindful of that if you're listening to us in the Northwood area. If you haven't been home yet, there's been some rolling brownouts out there. I know we've had a couple of flickers in this region as well. Whether that's to weather or other things, I'm not sure, but I know that those strong winds going to be a factor. And then, quite frankly, when I'm looking at this forecast, and you're going to hear more about that from Too Tall Tom in just about 15 minutes time here, it is going to be very hot out there this weekend. Windy as well. A high on Sunday of potentially 100 degrees. So, be mindful of that when perhaps if you're outdoor doing things, or if you're going to be indoors, make sure you got that AC working properly. And today might be the day to check it, because it's only going to get warmer from here. 80, 85, 94, 100 is what I'm looking at the highs from Schmansky's forecast. So we'll give you an update on that in just a little bit of time. I want to give just kind of some final thoughts on last night's election. I already told you that the turnout, pitiful. People have excuses. I don't think any of them have merit to it. Voting in North Dakota in particular is pretty dang easy. Yet here we are, and we saw a 16, 17% turnout of eligible voters for this election. And boy, there's a lot of thoughts going in to this election, a lot of concern about candidates, a lot of, support for others. The build up to Election Day, and quite frankly, the way of which lines were forming at precinct, well, I don't even know if I dare say precincts, at polling locations, at least in the metro area, it had the feel that there was going to be a very large turnout. It was the lowest in the last 3 cycles for primary elections. And I'm not talking about just percentage, because I know the census came out. We've got more people that are eligible to vote because more people are calling North Dakota home. Sheer numbers of people that actually voted. 2020 is an outlier. Now, my mind goes to not just the fact that, okay, that's the general election. You got the president coming up that November. Those election cycles have more interest. Voting was easier. Now, I'm going to repeat that. Voting this day, yesterday, was not hard. You still had the ability to go out and vote absentee, just as you always have that ability in North Dakota. No excuses needed. There's a number of opportunities for early voting at polling locations as well. Had a whole week available to you here in the metro area, here in Cass County. Burley County had the same whole week. So it's not about, well, I just couldn't find time on Tuesday, on election day. It's not an appropriate excuse. But the difference was in 2020 that because of this pandemic and because of changes, we wanted to keep everybody as far away from each other as possible. Stay home. Don't even go outside. You know what? We'll take care of it. We'll send your ballot to you. You just fill it out, send it on back. I think that played such a large role in that election, that primary election where turnout typically is a little bit lower, not even substantially lower than what it is in November. That ease of you being able to sit in your home, vote, send it in, get it out of the way, forget about it. You know what? You got it done. That ease played a large role. So my question is, if it's going to be easier for people to vote, and we want more people to vote, then why in the hell are we not making it easier on any given day? Why aren't we taking those steps that if the proof is there, if this is the means of which we can get more participation, then why aren't we doing it? And I don't know that we're ever going to take a step in that direction now, because following the November election in 2020, you were lied to. You were lied to from people that know better. Those that plot and scheme with well-funded lobbyists, and those that can make beautiful flyers about, okay, here's where you need to target to get this percentage of the vote out. Yeah, then you get all this, and then we already know if you got it won. They lied to you after those results came in, and they knew that the numbers, well, they were adding up, and they were adding up on the side of the ledger that they weren't a part of, at least at the top of the ticket. So because of that repeated lie, of saying that, you know what? Well, it had to be this vote by mail. That's why it took them so long to count the vote. Well, you can fix that. You don't allow these election officials to actually tabulate and count those votes when they receive them, not election day, not after election day. I mean, there are fixes, but we don't want to make it more easy. I mean, our first caller today about when I was griping about the poor turnout said exactly that. You know what? We should be able to find ways to make it easier, but we're not. And because of everything you were told, if this is the first time that you've been following along the actual vote counting in 2020, the perception of it has become so skewed, and people have become so detached from reality of what the process actually is because they were lied to by people that know the ins and outs of that live it, that made a whole career off of it. The same people that are talking about they might lose that career if they vote for some form of gun safety. You know, those people ought to be ashamed of themselves because they knew. Yet they took to the steps of Bismarck's Capitol. They took to capitals all across the country. They lied. They went on television. They went on friendly radio shows, and they continued to lie. And because of that, they convinced so many people that the easy way to get people to vote, the way to get more people to vote, by removing those barriers, we're not going to get any closer to that. And unfortunately, I think some of those people that were lying to you prefer it that way. Your thoughts at 35270. You can call me at 237-5948. KFGO News next. Final half hour of Afternoons Live to follow.
News of weather this hour brought to you by Muscatel Pre-Owned. Muscatel's was voted #1 by localsloveus.com for good reason. So stop in today to Muscatel Pre-Owned, just off Exit 1 in Moorhead.
Partly sunny, it's 78. I'm Paul Jerkins. Fargo City Commissioner Dave Pepcorn, who won a fourth term in yesterday's election, says he believes that a move from a Bismarck-based group, which spent thousands of dollars on negative ads about him, backfired and actually helped his campaign. He says people donated money and were voting for him because of the negative ads. The mailers sent over several weeks prior to the election targeted Pepcorn's sometimes rude actions during several city commission meetings. 5 people, including 4 newcomers, were elected to the school board. 3 incumbents were voted out of office. One of those newcomers is Namal Day, and longtime political observers in Fargo think her win may be a historic one for the city. Day is believed to be the first black person elected to any office in Fargo's history. Asked about her reaction to the landmark win, Day reflected on the challenges of her campaign. She says she was met with some hostility as she knocked on 4,000 doors in Fargo, but she says the good outweighed the bad.
It's still disbelief to me the door knock, the thing that they mentioned, and the fact that I still get incredible residents that are there who are good-hearted. It's not only a win for me, it's also a win for them. Because without them offering me water while I was walking, and they see that how much work that I put in, I'm grateful.
They got emotional when she reflected on her journey to get to this point. She's a refugee of South Sudan, where she said she saw atrocities while fleeing the country. She came to the U.S. at age 10. Her priorities in the school board will be mental health of students and teachers, retaining high-quality teachers and staff, and highlighting the importance of diversity in Fargo schools. 78. This is KFGO News. '78, partly sunny. This is KFGO News. Governor Walz is maintaining a strong financial advantage over Republican Scott Jensen for the fall election campaign. The Walz campaign says it raised $1.8 million since January 1st and has about $4.5 million in cash. The Jensen campaign says it's raised $472,000 since January and has $660,000 in the bank. President Biden has nominated one of the prosecutors who helped convict a former Minneapolis police officer in the killing of George Floyd to be a federal judge in Minnesota. Jerry Blackwell is a Minneapolis attorney and a founding partner of the law firm Blackwell Burke. He worked at no charge as he helped prosecute Derek Chauvin for the killing of Floyd, delivering a powerful rebuttal during the state's closing arguments. In 2020, Blackwell also won a pardon for a black man who was convicted of raping a white Duluth woman in 1920. The crime led a white mob to lynch 3 other black men. St. Paul public school leaders are preparing a new policy to allow and encourage the Native American practice of smudging at schools and events in Minnesota's second-largest district. Smudging is the cultural practice of burning sage or other sacred herbs for healing and to cleanse the soul of negative thoughts. Smudging is already taking place on an informal basis at some St. Paul schools, but supporters want to develop an official policy. They say it's a way to create a sense of belonging for Native American students who make up about 4% that is, of the district's population. Fargo-Moorhead, 60 overnight under a mostly cloudy sky. We might see a sprinkle or two. 80 tomorrow, partly sunny with a noticeable west wind at 17 to 37 and a bit gusty. 94 then on Saturday after Friday's high of 85. And again on Sunday, sunny, windy, near 100. 78, partly sunny. Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
All right. 80s pop was the right choice of bump songs today. Good work. Got you in the groove. It's a beautiful day out. I know it's a little windy. In fact, people are talking about that in the text club and comments on my comments about, the voting, the lies, all about it. 35270. That's provided by the Eye Consultants of North Dakota. I'll come back to those, and I'll address those after the CBS National News Update. I'm Tyler Axis, and this is KFGO Fargo. getting at in the text club right here in this very region. Everything you saw play out nationally on whether it was Fox News or Newsmax or perhaps it was what you saw on Facebook. Shared, liked, commented, or retweeted. In fact, there's lawsuits based on exactly this. And let me get to the message. 35270. Tyler, I worked the election and had a number of people ask if the voting machines were Dominion machines, the ones attacked by the crazy right, including Trump and Pillow Boy, meaning Mike Lindell, who is still out there peddling that lie and trying to raise money. In fact, I think there's a lawsuit with him and, what is her name? Is it Sydney something that was one of the attorneys for Donald Trump in this whole election process. And they're claiming Dominion, the machines, they're lying, they're getting all the votes. It was all a big lie on their part. And, when we talk about the money raised to combat the election, about all this voter fraud, you send us money and we're going to take it to court. The Sydney, whatever her name is, I think, in fact, she's getting sued by Dominion themselves. Was it for $1 billion? Because they were lying about these machines? The amount of people that donated to that cause, and I probably firmly believed it, perhaps still firmly believe the claims out there. I know there are people there because I run into them every now and then. They never shy away from telling me about it, which, what more can I say about the fact that it's just not reality? There's no level of proof, facts, evidence that's going to change some of those minds. But some people that thought that and believed it internally, deep down, really believed all this. And when asked and pestered by these campaigns or these PACs to donate money, well, they did. In fact, one of the funds that was brought up during that January 6th public hearing was $250 million raised. That was supposed to be going towards election litigation. And that $250 million that was sent in by people all across the country saying, yep, this is wrong. Find the fraud, count the votes. It's Dominion, it's the machines, it's every other thing except for just not as many votes as the other individual. That was a different candidate. That $250 million, most of it, which was supposed to go to that election litigation, didn't. It didn't. So the $250 million just went somewhere. I'm not sure exactly the final destination of that $250 million. I don't know if it went to paying off other debt, if it went towards the other campaigns, but the bottom line is people were sending in droves of money to fight this. Now, because it was repeated over and over and over and over again, and still is to this day by some of the people that you lay out in your text club, that you've got workers at these polling locations across the upper Midwest getting asked these questions because they heard it on some platform. Now, I'm going to use that and explain we had fewer polling locations here in the metro. And part of the reason that was given is that they're not able to find as many polling workers. Now, not only do I firmly believe that those lies that were provided about these machines, of which I used the electronic voting machine for the first time yesterday. The process to me was easy, but certainly it took a lot longer because people were probably using it for the first time themselves. And you know what? Maybe they didn't have their minds made up, a variety of things. But at least at the polling place that I went to, the individual that was kind of watching over and overseeing things said, we haven't had any issues with any machine as of yet. But the reason why we had fewer polling places is in part because you couldn't find people to work. And the reason that I said I firmly believe is because those individuals were being harassed as well throughout this because of lies told back then. So when we think about, oh, geez, I couldn't find a spot in my neighborhood, I couldn't go to the same church I usually do, it's because people aren't willing to do some of this work because of all this nationalized approach that have gone to everything from these type of elections that are run by counties, then the states, to school boards that are one of the most localized election decisions a person can make, but it's all been injected with the national conversations. And I'm damn glad that attempt here in Fargo failed miserably. Not once, but twice. The first time because of a failed petition, because they didn't know the language and the rules that they were trying to go out there to recall people. And the fact that then, once people were exposed to what really the motivations were, they didn't get voted in last night either. Instead, they went with a Robin Nelson for re-election. They went with a Naim Al-Day that had been working and busting tail to get on this board for 4 years, finally got it. Going to bring a whole new perspective to that because of her background that you heard right here on KFGO. So it's those lies repeated enough become the reality, unfortunately, for too many of your neighbors. 237-5948. You can call me and let me have it if you agree or disagree. Certainly most of you choosing to text in at 35270. There were some other passionate texts about Dave Pepcorn as well that came in earlier today. Because I'd asked, because he said he didn't do that obscene gesture. Well, when I asked Dave, look, it was on video, man. He's claiming that it wasn't, the finger. It wasn't giving Tony Garrick the bird. You can go to KFGO.com. You can look it up yourself and make your own determination there. The bottom line is when you had $30,000 get lit on fire in your mailbox by whoever decided to write that check to Pat Finken out of Bismarck and Minot, boy, what a waste. Think of what could have been done. $30,000. You'll never hear, because I bet you there's a high level of embarrassment that $30,000 I do think was the final push to get Dave Pepcorn reelected. I really do. Quite frankly, it seems like he acknowledges it as well. So talk about an in-kind contribution. But that primarily focused on his behavior on that commission. Saying, well, look, he was an embarrassment because he was flipping the bird, the way of which he talks. He called people liars, which you heard earlier. He says he stands by. But since that was the primary focus of the negative campaign, and then here only to watch him get reelected, that's why I asked if he's going to change his behavior. He didn't get punished for it, got called out for it. So I don't know. I do hope that, because there are a lot of people that will look at some of his approaches. Certainly the approach that he took with Jim Roars, for example. There's people, because I know you're texting in repeatedly following that, saying, well, good for Dave for calling it as he saw it. But those points, when you agree with them, sure, but it gets clouded over by the type of approach to it. Now, I know some people are applauding it. In fact, I saw that earlier today as well. But he made the pledge. I don't think he's going to be upset for me saying this, that with the new makeup of the board, there's going to be a little bit more civility. And to which I wonder, well, who's to blame for that? 35270. We'll come back to that. We'll see what's coming up on the Drive Time News with Jack Sunday. He's going to be coming on up 5 o'clock, steering you right into Couch Potato Radio. Twins, they've got a day game, and it's only on YouTube. And I'm looking, and it's the top of the 7th, and they are tied. No runs scored at all out in Seattle. This is their last game there. They're heading down to Arizona. You'll be able to catch some of those games starting, in fact, Friday right here on your home for Twins baseball, KFGO.